September meeting of the Wheaton Park District Board of Commissioners to order. Mike, please take the roll.
Commissioner Vyers.
Here.
Commissioner Pacharich.
Here.
Commissioner Meade.
Here.
Commissioner Fry.
Here.
Commissioner Barrett.
Here.
President Kelly.
Here. Before we begin tonight's meeting, I want to let everyone know that our colleague, Commissioner Ray Morrill, passed away rather suddenly on August 27, 2023. And this is the Park Board's first monthly meeting without him. Ray was a longtime servant of the residents of Wheaton, and he will be greatly missed by all who had the good fortune to know and work with him. I think it's only fitting tonight that we take a moment to honor him by remembering some of his accomplishments. Ray joined the Wheaton Park District as an employee in 1971 and rose to the level of Superintendent of Recreation, where he was responsible for creating many of the popular programs still in existence today. Ray loved the Wheaton Park District and was determined to do his part to make it a model agency for park districts across the state. During this tenure, he collaborated with his coworkers to help the district earn 3 national gold medals. During his professional career, Ray was also a volunteer. He served his state association, IPRA, as co-chair of the Joint Conference Committee, director of the recreation sector, IRPA Board of Directors member, and 1996 IPR president. He received several service awards, including the Robert Arts Distinguished Service Award, IPRA Facility Management Section Professional of the Year, IPRA Professional Award, and the IPRA Fellow Award. He also co-chaired the committee to change the Illinois Aquatics Code. Nationally, Ray served on the NRPA, National Aquatics Council, both as a member and as president. He was a 3-time chair of the National Aquatics Conference and served on the NRPA Great Lakes Regional Council. After serving the community for 34 years as a Park District professional, Ray retired and ran for Wheaton Park District Commissioner. He won 5 consecutive elections, where he served with honor and professionalism for 17 years. His various board positions included terms as both board president and vice president, along with serving on the Buildings and Grounds Subcommittee. He volunteered as the Cosley Board Liaison and was a member of the Play for All Foundation. I first met Ray when I volunteered to coach my oldest daughter's softball team in 1992. He then convinced me to join the Volunteer Baseball Softball Board of Control, where I had the privilege of working with Ray for 17 years. I can personally tell you his passion for the Wheaton Park District and for the families who participated in the programs he oversaw was contagious. And under his guidance, the board constantly sought ways to improve the program for all participants. I am told he did the very same thing serving on the youth football board. And he's the main reason I decided to continue volunteering my time as an elected official. During my 14 years as a park board member, Ray continued to show me what it meant to be a true volunteer. I want everyone to know that Ray dedicated over 50 years of his life to helping make Wheaton a better place for all of us, and he will be truly missed by all the people whose lives he touched. He was the consummate professional, our colleague, and most importantly, our friend. Please join me in a moment of silence as we honor Ray's life of service and the positive impact he made on the lives of all Wheaton residents. On behalf of the Park District Board of Commissioners, I want to welcome our guests to tonight's monthly board meeting. We have a substantial number of residents here to address the board, and here's how we're going to accomplish this. When I call your name, please come to the podium and state your name and address prior to speaking, so your comments will be recorded. I will ask you to please limit your time to 3 minutes or less, so everyone gets a chance to speak. We will let the residents go first, and then we will move on to non-residents. As stated in the board's policy manual, which can be found on our website, the purpose of public participation is to allow the public the opportunity to make a statement to the board. The purpose of public participation is not to provoke a debate with the board. Once an individual has spoken, that individual may not speak on the same issue again. Public comments are important to the board. However, it's the board's policy not to take action on items until time has been taken to gather information and discuss all options. Lack of action does not imply lack of interest in the issues. During the community input portion, the board typically will ask residents to provide input prior to accepting non-residents. Do we have a list? Donna, can you bring me the list? And please forgive me if I mispronounce your name because I'm having trouble with your handwriting. First speaker tonight is Jeff Musil.
Good evening. Jeff Musso, the address is 25W 700 Flint Creek Road in Wheaton.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you.
I've been a resident of the Wheaton Park District since my family moved to the community 27 years ago. I'm here today to express my strong support for the planned parking expansion at Cosley Zoo. The zoo has needed this expansion for a long time, and I'm glad to see the Park District moving forward to make it a reality as part of the zoo master plan that was developed in 2017. When my wife and I were looking for a community to raise our family, we knew that Wheaton had great schools and a fine reputation, but we didn't know much more. On one of our first outings with our realtor, I'll never forget how she shared that Wheaton even had an adorable little zoo, her words. I can't imagine how many local realtors have shared that very same information over the years with potential new residents. My wife, children, and I have enjoyed many happy times and developed cherished family traditions at Cosley Zoo over the years. We've enjoyed activities such as observing the zoo's farm animals and wildlife, participating in zoo events like Run for the Animals, and our annual purchases of Halloween pumpkins and our Christmas tree. But Cosley Zoo is not just a fun place to visit. The zoo has an important mission, promoting the practice of conservation. One amazing example of their conservation efforts is that over the past 2 decades, the zoo has raised and released over 4,000 endangered Blandings turtles into the forest preserves, and those are the forest preserves of DuPage. In my opinion, connecting children to the natural world and teaching the next generation about conservation is critical to the future of our planet. The impact of Cosley Zoo's mission and programming has grown over the years as the Wheaton Park District and the private community have continually invested in the zoo. In fact, my family thinks so highly of Cosley Zoo that we support it with our own donations. The zoo's master plan I mentioned earlier provides a solid roadmap for future updates to the zoo's facilities. My family is excited to experience the planned improvements like the Rivers exhibit featuring beavers and otters. But the zoo's first order of business is to address its parking problem. Anyone who has visited Cosley Zoo on a busy day knows that parking is grossly insufficient. The new parking lot will go a long way to allowing more residents to visit the zoo. That means more children meeting the animals and learning to appreciate and care for nature. Plus, it will be foundational to the future developments of the master plan. I believe we are very fortunate to have one of the best park districts in the area that offers a variety of excellent recreational facilities and programs. The district has done a great job of continuing to update and enhance its facilities, the most recent example being the outstanding renovation of Memorial Park. I strongly support Wheaton Park District's plans to move forward with the Cosley Zoo's parking expansion. Thank you.
Thank you. Next person is Matt Zafransky. Sorry,
I'll help you out. It's not my first rodeo.
you guys need better handwriting.
Matt Safransky, longtime Wheaton resident, also Cosley Foundation board member and current president. My family moved to Wheaton in 1986. I come to you as not only as a longtime resident, but also a father of two young boys, and experienced Cosley Zoo myself, and then also shared it with my own children. Over the years, Cosley Zoo has grown in what they've given to this community. Everything from the Blanding turtles that you heard about, the conservation work, but also educational programs through the Junior Zookeeper program and educational programs at Cosley and then at schools themselves. The Cosley Zoo parking lot expansion is really important for this mission, and then also we know that parking has been an issue for years. During peak times of May through August, young families are driving up, and about an average 2 days a week, there's not enough parking. These are families looking for an outlet that's not screens or staying at home. This is an outlet for them. This is something that's in dire need, and I recommend that the board do pursue the expansion of Cosley Zoo parking lot. Thank you.
Thank you. Looks like Jim Crispin.
I am Jim Crispin. My wife and I live at 604 East Evergreen Street, with 2 grown children who have left the nest. Yesterday, I went to the Park District facility, the community center on Blanchard Road. I'm a member of Parks Plus, which, by the way, I appreciate Parks Plus very much. I asked a woman behind the counter, if I were to say that I self-identify as a woman, would I be permitted to use the women's restroom or the women's locker room? And she became very tense. She said that I would need to ask Michael Bernard. Now, I felt a little badly because she and I had become friendly. I go there to work out. We talk now and then. And I said, yeah, I'm not trying to put you on the spot. I'm just asking a question here. And I asked, if I were to go into the women's locker room and begin changing my clothing, and a woman were to come to you from the locker room to complain about that, what would you do? And she said, I would direct her, let me quote, please. I would direct her to Michael Bernard. I was hoping she'd say we'd call the police. Then I went to the Central Area Complex on Naperville Road. We couldn't go to the pools. They are closed for the season. But at the Central Area, a Central Athletic Complex, a young woman was behind the desk. I asked the same question, and she said that, well, she pointed out that that building has restrooms but does not have locker rooms. And to my question, let me quote again, please. She said, I would need to ask my supervisor. And then she also said, intriguingly in my view, I know they've been talking about it over at the community center. Now, board members, it seemed possible to me that some of the discussion that began a few months ago came out of some honest misunderstanding of communication. We talked about it, people would drop it. But after those 2 conversations I had yesterday, it's very difficult for me to think that, for me to conclude that. And at a meeting in this very chamber several months ago, the board insisted quite strongly that the policy has not changed and added that they would not and could not make it an agenda item that evening. And so, in light of that, Mr. Bernard, am I saying your name properly? I'm sorry, Bernard. We're not acquainted. A question, and you can get, I don't think you can get back to me tonight. I don't think that's your position to do that. But I will ask a question, sir. Can a biological male use the women's locker room at a Park District facility? And then, in turn, how would that relate to the policy? Now, my contact information is on that page. It might be a little easier if I just give you a piece of paper. I'm glad to do that, and it's someone else's turn now.
Thank you. Next person is Sharon Beersdorf.
Good evening. My name is Sharon Beiersdorf. I live at 766 Ralph Court, Pioneer Terrace subdivision. I am a longtime resident of Wheaton, and I am very concerned about the proposed Cosley Zoo parking lot expansion on the east side of busy Gary Avenue. I decided last week to visit Cosley Zoo and see how they are presenting their expansion project to their patrons and see for myself the daily operation of the zoo. Back in the late 90s, early 2000s, I worked part-time at the Cosley Zoo gift shop. Many patrons would express how much they loved the small, intimate nature of the zoo and how easy it was to walk with little ones underfoot. I was also at Cosley Zoo while they were going through the rigorous AZA accreditation process. I commend them for this endeavor. Their desire to expand as a result of this accreditation may seem logical, but at what expense? Getting back to my recent visit, I appreciate seeing the old signage describing animal habitats, interesting facts, and pictures, but then I saw more than a dozen times where the word conservation occurred in the newer signage. I'm happy to read that Cosley Zoo boasts being a conservation champion. I don't see how disrupting a wetland area for parking space 300% larger than the existing parking can be called conservation. By the way, the 300% enlargement figure is taken directly from signage in the Vern Keebler barn labeled, and I quote, "a new Cosley Zoo." When I looked more closely at this plan, showing an aerial view of the proposed Cosley Zoo parking, I noticed a difference between this plan and a pamphlet given at an informational neighbor night. Cosley Zoo and the Wheaton Park District hosted this meeting on July 11th for Pioneer Terrace and Wheaton Oak residents. What I noticed is the display in the barn for patrons to see indicates a tunnel entry from the parking on the east side of Gary Avenue, safely taking patrons under Gary Avenue to the entrance of the zoo. The pamphlet here that I have tonight, given to us at the neighbor night, shows a parking conceptual plan right here, directing visitors access via a pedestrian crosswalk with a new traffic signal at the intersection of Gary and Prairie Avenues. When I looked at the Wheaton Park District website, capital projects and park improvements, again, I saw this discrepancy. I enlarged the map application of capital projects, and under map location COZ 22, the description states, and I quote, "increased parking with an over/underpass across street." I am wondering if Wheaton Park District and Cosley Zoo plan on correcting this misleading information to their patrons. Tomorrow night, Cosley Zoo will be hosting their Uncorked Wine event, and the sign in the Vern Keebler barn may very well be viewed by the attendees with this misleading information. The public deserves consistent and current information. Thank you.
Thank you. Edward Sepke.
Good evening. My name is Edward Sepke, 1043 Oakview Drive in Wheaton. First, a little background on me. My wife and I have been residents of the Wheaton Oaks community for 45 years. Cosley Zoo predates our residence in the area. Wheaton Oaks borders the west and south ends of Cosley Zoo. My front door is about 200 feet from the west edge of the Cosley property. Over the years, we have enjoyed our many visits to Cosley. It's a very relaxing environment. We enjoy watching how the many children and their parents relate to the animals. The extensive educational signage at each of the animal enclosures certainly adds to the experience. Significantly increased attendance over the years is evidence of the value Cosley provides to our town and surrounding areas. A number of years ago, due to the increased attendance, Cosley expanded their parking lot to the south of the zoo. Surrounding neighborhoods were regularly kept apprised of the planning and execution of the project development. Cosley Zoo has had a long-term development plan under consideration for some time now. There have been, as in all long-term plans, a number of changes. Cosley Zoo has regularly sponsored neighbor nights, where the residents of surrounding adjacent neighborhoods are invited and given a presentation on updates to the development plan. Q&A sessions follow where Zoo and Park District personnel attempt to address the concerns or just general questions that closely located residents might have. The most recent neighbor night was July 11th, where I was in attendance. The primary purpose was to present the latest update to the development plan. The first phase will be to provide additional parking on the east side of Gary Avenue. This will be coordinated with city work on Gary Avenue and the installation of a traffic signal at Prairie to allow easier access to the zoo's entrance. The details were presented to the audience and the floor was open to questions. Park District representatives and members of the engineering planning firm were in attendance to address the inquiries. The questions/objections primarily came from Pioneer Terrace residents. The project engineering people went into great deal explaining the planning process as well as the extensive environmental studies which had taken place to ensure that the impact on adjoining areas would be minimized. My observations indicated to me that the same objections arose repeatedly, and the consulting engineers patiently responded each time. It became clear to me that the questioners simply did not want that land developed. They had become accustomed to their, in quotes, extended backyard. In my opinion, there's no logical reason to delay or change the planning for the future parking. Thank you for the opportunity to present what now at this point I expect to be a minority opposing view. And just an added comment, my wife and I have skin in the game. We are contributors to both the operational and capital fund of Cosley.
Thank you. Before we continue, I certainly don't want to cut anybody off who runs over the 3 minutes, but we are starting to creep over it a little bit, so I would just ask you to try to keep your comments to 3 minutes, please. Next is Diane, is it Gallo? Gallo.
Good evening. I appreciate the opportunity to speak here. I am here in regards to the Cosley Zoo parking lot situation. I live 3 houses away from Gary Avenue to the east. I was not aware of any of this plan. I've never received an invitation through the neighbors of Cosley Zoo to attend any of this. I wish I had seen the engineering study because perhaps my concerns would have been addressed. But being south of the park, I know, and representing all the West Prairie residents, there has been a history of significant flooding there. Okay, so that is one concern that I have with a 4-acre parking lot replacing what's currently green space today. Another concern that I have that I don't know that has been addressed by anybody who's come forward yet is the traffic considerations. This is a very busy road on Gary Avenue with a lot going on. And as I see it, the traffic coming through town to support the zoo is going to be coming through north-south routes that ultimately are going to either converge at Gary Avenue and Jewel or at Harrison and Gary Avenue. That intersection today is already very, very busy. If there have been studies to look at the traffic flow, I'd like to see them because it's an issue today. I don't think it's going to get better. I think it's going to get worse. And you've got a lot of traffic with schools in all directions there that I think are going to be impacted. Also, I would say the ecosystem and the conservation, which somebody mentioned before, is also a concern of mine. If they've been addressed, I'd like to hear it. Listen, I've been a resident for 25 years. I've raised 3 kids here, been a part of the Park District, enjoyed it very much. I've enjoyed Cosley Zoo very much, whether it's buying pumpkins, Christmas trees, or just walking the kids through there, or nieces and nephews when they were young. I love the zoo. I love everything it offers, and I appreciate that there's a problem here in terms of parking. I'm not sure this is the right solution, and that's what I would propose, is that there's other solutions that can be addressed without creating an issue that's going to impact the habitat and ecosystem that exists today in the green space, isn't going to cause potential flooding issues, and isn't going to cause an issue with traffic. So those are my remarks, hopefully within the 3 minutes, sir.
Under 3 minutes, thank you. Gabby Rezick.
Hi, thank you for your time. My name is Gabi Rezick. I live at 428 Southwest Street. I've lived in Wheaton for 12 years. I appreciate you guys being here and giving us an opportunity to speak. I'm also just asking for clarification on the policy about the bathrooms. You have people believing that you can use the bathroom according to your gender identity, and people who believe you may not. And several employees have told me different things when I've called different facilities. I called today the community center, and I spoke to Heather, and she also told me I'd need to speak to Mike Bernard. He's very difficult to get a hold of these days, and I don't think he's present during all the opening hours. So if there were a problem, what is the policy? If Mike Bernard isn't there to clarify what would happen. But right now, the way it stands without clarification, everybody is going to, everybody has the potential to be hurt, to be offended on either side of it. So I'm just really asking for clarification because we haven't gotten any clarification. So thank you.
Thank you. Susan Vakarek.
Hello. Hi, my name is Susan Varsak. I live at 520 North Main Street in Wheaton. I am a volunteer on the Cosley Foundation Board, but tonight I am here making a comment strictly as a resident and as a mom. Cosley is important to our family. It's important to many Wheaton families. It's a place where we can go for free as residents and connect with animals. It's a place my children ask about for stopping by and summer camp. Cosley is important to my value system. I believe in their mission of conservation, and I know Sue Walgren and the Greater Park District organization to be focused on that mission. It sounds like there is, misunderstanding. So just to give a perspective on my understanding is that the property in question to the east side of Gary that is proposed for development into a parking lot used to have houses on it. And so if I'm wrong in that way, or if it is somehow designated as sensitive wetland space, then my opinion of the parking lot project will also change. But my understanding is that the development of that land predates the park district's purchase of it, and that the park district essentially cleaned it up in the interim. Conservation is the driving force for my support of Cosley. And we do need to solve Cosley's parking needs. I don't know how many of you have recently tried to pick someone up at noon from a Cosley camp in summer. The parking lot is a mess, and it's full. And people can't come in high season and be part of Cosley's mission because they have no choice but to drive on by. Finally, Cosley is important to the Wheaton community. Its growth has been slow and steady and publicly discussed. It has grown from a tiny operation 50 years ago to an accredited small zoo participating in a species survival program, educating thousands of people every year on animal and conservation-related topics. That is something as a Wheaton resident that I'm proud of and the community benefits from. And that has only been possible because people along the way have believed that Cosley was important enough to receive resources and room to grow responsibly. I trust that with the Park Board's guidance, Cosley's future will be managed with strategic thought and care. Cosley is important enough for that investment. Thank you.
Thank you. Kate Wesserman.
Good evening. Excuse me. My name is Kate Wasserman. I live at 1639 Wadham Place in Wheaton. I've lived in Wheaton for 22 years. I spoke at the July meeting to offer my perspective as a longtime resident on what seemed to be the board's inclusive policy regarding locker rooms and bathrooms. I told you 3 stories back in July. I told you a story about myself, I told you a story about my daughter, and I told you a story about another trans person that I had heard speak. I also referred to the countless studies that have shown absolutely no correlation between inclusive policies and violence. It's not a problem. Today, I want to talk more about motivation. The motivation from those who oppose inclusive policies, where they say that they are motivated by wanting to provide safe spaces and to protect children, but at the same time, they have no trouble demeaning and insulting children who aren't the right kind of children. They say they want to keep people safe, but I promise you that my daughter, who I believe is speaking next, would not be safe changing in a men's locker room. She would not. On the contrary, my motivation is to ensure that my community supports all its residents and gives access to all Wheaton residents to the amazing Park District facilities that we have here. My family has been enjoying them for all of the 22 years that I've lived here. So when I read earlier this summer that there was an inclusive policy and that residents should use the correct bathroom and locker room associated with the gender that they identify with, I was thankful to see that my community was supporting my whole family and that my whole family would be welcome at Rice Pool or wherever else. And then the waters got kind of muddy and it seemed to be a little bit less clear what the policy really was. So I wanted to come back today and just reiterate my enthusiastic support for inclusive policy and how important it is that we make sure that all Wheaton residents are welcome. And if possible, just make sure that there's some more clarity and that everyone is on the same page about it so that it doesn't get confusing on an individual basis if my daughter wanted to show up at a bathroom, at the community center tomorrow versus like a week later. So I appreciate your time, and I hope that the inclusive policy stays. Thank you.
Thank you. Minette Vogt.
Hi there, my name is Minette Vogt, and I am 19 years old, and I've lived in Wheaton for the entirety of my 19 years of life. I live at 1639 Wheaton Place, and I spoke here last time in July to express my enthusiastic support for inclusive bathroom and locker room policies in the Park District. I am not happy to have to be here again. I doubt anyone is, but I think it's important that we all contribute to our community. I want to start by saying that some of the press that I saw release after the July meeting was frankly insulting to me. I was referred to, or as one of the two trans people at the meeting, one of us was referred to as an unstable, gender-confused individual with a mother with Munchausen's by proxy, which I think is disgusting. Last time I tried to appeal with my humanity and just told my story about living here, but this time I'm going to try a more pragmatic and less sugar-coated approach, and I really hope the board is receptive. I am tired of people like me being smeared as pedophiles and predators and groomers. A man has tried to groom me, and it was not a transgender person, it was not a gay person, it was a white, cisgender, heterosexual male. And the grooming was not to make me transgender, it was to get me to go to where he lived so he could do God knows what to me. I have so many friends, and so many of them are women, and almost all of them have a story, whether it's being catcalled or groped or sexually harassed or stalked. Not one of these, I've noticed, has been done by a transgender woman. I'm also curious to how, if we change the policy, this rule would be enforced. Would we station genital inspectors outside of every single bathroom and locker room? And how would that interact with trans women who have had bottom surgery? Would we install karyotyping equipment to get a read of people's chromosomes? Because I feel like that would be a massive waste of money and also ignores the lived existence of intersex people. I tried to Google a little bit to see what exactly was going on, and I Googled the phrase transgender sexual assault in Wheaton, so maybe I could be more up to date on like if there was an issue here. I was unable to find any article about sexual assault perpetrated by a transgender woman. I was, however, able to find a story about 2 transgender women being robbed in a hate crime back in, I think, 2016. As much as I've wanted to believe that this movement to segregate bathrooms is for the safety of cisgender women, I slowly find that harder to believe as I provide so much evidence and my lived experience, and I'm completely shut down. I hope it's not of abject hatred, and to the women here, I want to say that we are not your enemy. Cisgender men are far more dangerous than transgender women. You can ask any statistic. I would love nothing more than to just be able to use the bathroom, fix my hair, whatever. And I think that instead of putting that money towards ways to enforce transphobic law and policy, I think we should put that effort into our sexual education curriculums to teach our youth about grooming and pedophilia so that they can know when these things are happening to them and not to fearmonger about some giant other. I've been othered for a lot of my life, and it's not just because I'm trans, and I don't think I'll ever not be othered in my life, and I've made peace with that. But I hope that people have listened, and I believe the first step to de-otherizing people is to listening to what they have to say. Thank you.
Again, I don't have any intention of stopping anybody tonight who's going over the limit, but I would ask you to please do your best to try to stick to the 3-minute limit. Pam Bassey.
Hi, I live at 225 West Franklin Street, and I'm here to talk about the Cosley Plan. I've lived here in Wheaton. I'm a longtime resident, raised my children here, and love taking them to the zoo. And like someone else said, it's an adorable zoo, and we love it. My concern is the master plan states that it wants to become the most popular and successful attraction in DuPage County and increase its reach in the region. As a taxpayer, I'm not really interested in it becoming an attraction for DuPage County and the region because of all the increased traffic on Gary, the reduction of green space, which in itself I think should be a goal of the Park District. I don't think we need a restaurant at Cosley. I think we're going to end up like Memorial Park, where the taxpayers fund the project and then we have to pay to get into the concerts and use it. I'm really asking you to scale back your vision for Cosley because it's great as it is. Everybody loves it. I don't think we can handle the traffic on Gary. And additionally, many people I've talked to have not even heard about any of the ideas of the parking lot expansion and Cosley expansion. So I think we need to get that beyond just the little neighborhoods that are having the neighborhood meetings and let the rest of the taxpayers hear about it. So I know we need to keep moving with improvements and things like that, but I think the grand scale of it is just too much for that area. Thank you.
Thank you. David Sommer.
Hi, my name is David Sommer. I live at 720 North Main Street in Wheaton. I've lived here for over 30 years. And 3 months ago, at this meeting, City Hall was filled to capacity, standing room only, to express concern, shock, disappointment, and even outrage at the email sent out by Dan Novak and fully approved by Mr. Bernard, which stated that people could use the restroom or locker room based on their gender identity. Of course, this means that if a biological male claims to be a woman, then he can enter the women's girls' locker room and use it like any other woman can. This would include changing into and out of a bathing suit in the common area. As if this was not disturbing enough, the district was asked countless times, in person, by phone, and by email, to explain why the current practice of allowing someone of one biological sex to enter the personal spaces of the other biological sex is permitted, as it violates the current Wheaton Park District policy, which states in General Use Ordinances Section 2.8, no person except for children under age of 6 may enter into or remain in any restroom, washroom, or locker room designated for the opposite sex. I'd like to ask why the Wheaton Park District has not responded to the many inquiries on this topic. Is that something that could be answered right now?
No.
I'm not asking for a debate. I'm not asking for you to take action, but I would like an answer to a question that we're not getting an answer to. How can I get that answer?
The Park District will be taking on that topic at a different meeting.
Okay, thank you for that.
And I'll have more to say about it a little later.
I appreciate that. Because contrary to what Mr. Bernard stated in internal emails obtained via FOIA request, this issue is not going away. It needs to be addressed. And God forbid that one of our girls is physically or emotionally injured by the current practice that actually violates the Wheaton Park District policy. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next is Liz Westergaard.
Hi, I'm Liz Westergaard. I live at 742 Ralph Court. And I did look at your kind of bylaws, and it says we get 5 minutes. So I wrote my speech, and I practiced it, and it takes 5 minutes. I would like to extend my condolences on the passing of your fellow board member, Ray Morrill. That's hard. I'm speaking this afternoon in opposition to your plans to expand the adorable little Cosley Zoo. The plan has been in the works for some time, I believe since 2017, and we have not been in favor of it. I can't find a single person in favor of it until tonight, the foundation board members. When I began to ask people, nobody knew about it. From the common citizens of Wheaton who pay taxes, to the local business owners, even Wheaton Sports Center, your nearest neighbor, to the mayor of Wheaton, to the DuPage County Planning and Zoning Administration Coordinator. When we began in earnest to ask in July of this year, nobody knew anything about the Cosley Master Plan. How does a multi-million project for an organization supported by our tax dollars progress so far along without public knowledge and without public input? Our park district does not welcome citizen input, as evidenced by my letters and phone calls to park district commissioners and admins. It took Mr. Bernard 17 days to respond to my letters and phone calls, and I do believe that that may be because of your deceased member, and I'm sorry if it was, but nobody else ever responded. Is no one, our Wheaton Park District employees, not allowed to respond to public questions? Although taxpayers support Cosley Zoo, additional funds for expansion come through the Cosley Foundation grants and other donations. There are no funds for enhanced exhibits as shown on maps and online. This project is being built in the hopes that people will come so that more money can be raised. It almost sounds like a Ponzi scheme. The first step is to build a massive parking lot. This is first clue that Wheaton Park District and Cosley Zoo have plans that do not and will not benefit Wheaton residents. A massive parking lot built adjacent to a 60-year-old neighborhood between protected areas is going to reduce home values. This does not benefit Wheaton residents. How do the residents of Wheaton benefit? There has been aggressive fundraising by the Cosley Foundation, and people respond because they want to help animals. The project itself and the purpose for fundraising has been kept under wraps. Although there are details in your comprehensive annual financial report, it is not listed on the capital projects improvement page of the Wheaton Park District website. I included a link. And it was never clear to any of us why we were running for the animals. We thought we were feeding them and enhancing their quarters at the zoo. Here's an excerpt from the master plan somebody already read, with greater emphasis on the zoo's conservation and animal welfare initiatives, which I don't have any problem with, but ultimately making Cosley Zoo the most popular and successful attraction in DuPage County and increasing its reach in the region, that is not beneficial to Wheaton residents. The citizens of Wheaton who pay 8% of their taxes to the Park District deserve to have knowledge and input into this master plan of Cosley Zoo. We didn't ask for it, and we don't want a regional attraction. In fact, we have expressly answered no when asked in a survey if we want to change Cosley Zoo. In 2016, the majority of residents expressed a high level of satisfaction with Cosley Zoo and do not want changes. Results included that the most common facility request from residents is the preservation of open spaces. Furthermore, the overwhelming majority of Cosley visitors are not Wheaton residents. In 2022, out of 150,000 visitors, there were 26,000 or 18% resident visitors and 124,000 or 82% non-resident visitors. In 2021, there were 173 visitors made up of approximately 22,500 Wheaton visitors and 151,000 non-residents. What if you double your visitors? Following the same ratios, that would mean 52,000 Wheaton residents and 250,000 non-resident visitors. That's putting an additional 1,000 drivers on our Wheaton roads per day. Incidentally, most visitors come from Illinois. The majority come from DuPage County. The next largest county represented is Cook County. In 2022, 72% of visitors came from DuPage County and 13% came from Cook County. The remaining visitors came from other nearby counties. According to your plan, how many people are you projecting will visit? Visitors from Wheaton are finite. Visitors from the region are to some extent infinite. In other words, you are building this master plan for regional visitors, not Wheaton residents. Wheaton residents do not want a regional attraction on the corner of two-lane roads, increasing traffic throughout Wheaton. In order to get there, people, strangers on strange roads, will pass two nearby elementary schools and mix with inexperienced high school drivers. The Wheaton Park District's mission, vision, and value statements do not align or support this master plan, nor do the Cosley mission and vision statements align or support this plan. Cosley mission and vision statements use the word conservation a lot. If Wheaton Park District and Cosley were truly interested in conservation, they would recognize that enhancing the zoo exhibits into a zoo amusement park in a landlocked area isn't conservation. In this day of climate change and in alignment with the 2016 survey results, the best thing the Park District could do for Wheaton residents is to preserve green space and not make these pretentious and ill-fated changes to Cosley. Make Cosley Zoo the best little zoo it can be. The recent additions to the pig pen, a little muddy area with brush, and the chicken pen, a sort of ladder that chickens enjoy climbing, are wonderful additions. Keep it up. Fulfill your mission to the community. Stop your ambition to be the most popular attraction in Wheaton. It is folly. Thank you.
Thank you. Mike, pardon me?
Donna can take it. She'll give it to me.
Mike Flynn.
My name is Mike Flynn, 2081 Wexford Circle in Wheaton. So I've learned a lot attending the June and July Park District Board meeting, public comment portions, and speaking in July. I didn't pay close enough attention to the changes and reschedules for August, so I didn't attend that one. I appreciate Mr. Bernard's time during our impromptu conversation and Mr. Spurl's time during my FOIA review. So several of the speakers have addressed the communication piece. You've got a really exciting high-dollar project coming up with the bathroom renovations. So I think it'd be good to update the website for that and maybe put something up on the front desk there that it's already a done deal. So there's no point in speaking more about single use. There is some single use, better screening that's coming in on that, which is a great idea. So with respect to the bathroom changing issue, so I'm a lot more resigned and more at peace with the situation. I don't like it. My suggestion is that the board or the Park District clarify your position, similar to some of the other speakers. For those in the audience who are interested in this issue, I'll state what I believe the situation is. Park District policy complies with Illinois law. Criminal or improper behavior will be dealt with if and when it happens. There is no board discussion. It hasn't been on the agenda. The policy has not changed, and your postings match your policy. That's it. So one could argue that the 2 hours in June and the hour in July and the 5 speakers before me and my own time here is to a certain degree a waste of time. So there's been no board or other Park District comment to my knowledge. This strategy appears to be working, the strategy of doing nothing publicly. You've outlasted us, right? The room was full, and now there's 6 of us. The speaker that referred to inclusive, the board's policy is not inclusive. It's also not inclusive. Did I say that right? It just is. It's not inclusive and it's not inclusive. So the issue here is not trans. Trans is a lie. X does not equal Y. I believe in science. I'm pro-woman. I'm pro-man. I'm pro-family. I wasn't going to speak to this, but it was already brought up. It's a distraction on this issue. So the issue really is whether there's some boundaries. Words have meaning. I do have significant compassion, especially for trans minors whose parents fell for the medical industry and the big dollars in lifetime. So very, very sad, compassionate for that. Thank you. Apologies for going over.
Thank you. Pam Knight.
My name is Pam Knight. I live at 795 West Hawthorne Boulevard, Wheaton. Thank you very much for this opportunity, and I will cut out all the touchy-feely stuff. My husband and I have lived at that address for over 30 years. We've lived on the north side of Wheaton for nearly 50 years. We've raised 4 kids in Wheaton, and we now have 6 grandkids living nearby. The Wheaton Park District programs and parks have greatly enriched our lives here, and they continue to do so, including Causely Park. But for us, the real gift has been the wetland. In our neighborhood, we see deer, fox, coyote, beaver, muskrat, possum, raccoon, all living in the wild as they were meant to. And birds, great blue heron, the elusive night heron, egret, cormorant, bald eagle, red-tailed hawk, great horned owl, an occasional sandhill crane, and even osprey. Now, if you've never seen an osprey hovering above the water waiting to catch a fish, you've missed a thrill. We've seen it in those wetlands. My neighbors could probably add to this list a list of wildlife observed moving freely through its natural habitat. Last week, we lay awake listening to the gentle hoot of an owl in the treetops near our house. Only 10% of Illinois' original wetlands remain. And we happen to live on a narrow wetland wildlife corridor, one that connects larger habitats. If you look at a map of the natural areas in DuPage, it's obvious how important this corridor is, connecting a network of habitats, enabling wildlife to travel and mingle, promoting genetic diversity, and creating healthier, more resilient wildlife populations. The wetland I speak of cannot be valued in dollars. It's priceless. Quote, conservation is a key component of Causely Zoo's mission. That's what it says on the zoo's website. Conservation is defined as preservation, protection, or restoration of the natural environment and its wildlife. Which leaves me and you all with 2 questions. First, how in the world is the expansion of Causely Zoo, with its plan to cut down mature trees, pave nearly 4 acres of open space, eliminate a wetland retention pond, and in effect, seriously disrupt a natural wildlife habitat? How is that consistent with your stated mission to preserve and protect such spaces? Second question, could this plan of the Park District be a mistake that you need to reconsider? The people of Wheaton like Causely Zoo as it is, an adorable little zoo. Thank you.
Thank you. Christy Needham.
Hello. I've crossed a lot out, John, so I'm doing my best. My name is Christy Needham. I live at 1311 North Carlton Avenue, and I'm here with some questions about the Causely Zoo parking lot project. Throughout the time that I've become aware of this project, it's become clear to me, Mr. Bernard, that you've given very little, if any, thought to the overwhelming list of negative consequences of this parking lot. Flooding, safety, traffic, increased financial burden on the taxpayers of Wheaton, impact to the wetlands and the wildlife that you claim you're doing this to conserve. And you've unabashedly given no consideration to how this project will actually impact the neighboring residents. To quote you, "We're lucky you even included us." That leads me to believe that you think this project is so important that it should be done regardless of the cost to others. So I'd like to ask you, and perhaps I could ask some of the Cosley Zoo Foundation board members that spoke earlier, do you believe this project is so important that you're willing to write me a check from your personal account for $100,000? Is this project important enough that you're personally willing to give up $100,000 of your net worth? And if the answer is no, I wonder why it is that you feel so comfortable putting dozens of neighboring residents in that exact situation and then telling them they're lucky to be included or lucky to even be told about it. To be clear, from a legal standpoint, I'm not asking for any money today. I'm using this question to illustrate a really important point that you clearly have not cared to consider. $100,000 is not an exaggeration. It's reasonable to assume that the value of my home will decrease substantially when the parking lot is built next to my backyard, because no one wants to live next to a parking lot. When you add the legal expenses and the cost of trying to mitigate the water damage to my home and yard that will unquestionably occur every time it rains once this project disrupts the very fragile floodplain, I'd argue $100,000 is a conservative estimate of the personal loss that my family will incur as a result of your reckless quest to move forward with this project at any cost. There are dozens of families in the neighborhood that will face similarly large personal losses. It's easy to be cavalier with someone else's money, isn't it? To decide that the cost to others isn't important when it doesn't impact you personally. It's easy to say how much you love the zoo and how important this project is for conservation when the value of your home won't be impacted and you won't incur any of the negative consequences personally. The benefits of this project, and I'm sure there are some, need to be weighed against the substantial consequences, the substantial negative consequences of this project and the negative impact to many residents of Wheaton. For more information about the strong and growing opposition to and the legitimate concerns about this project that we don't have time to address today, I'd encourage you to watch the replay of the last 2 city council meetings, where my neighbors and I cover in detail the significant and wide-ranging concerns related to this project. I'd also highlight to you that there's a petition with over 1,100 signatures in opposition of this parking lot. I'd like you to reconsider going ahead with this project and to think long and hard about how you would feel about this project if you were in my shoes, facing a huge loss to your personal savings. Surely there's a better way to achieve this goal that will not directly harm dozens of local residents, that will benefit the Wheaton residents, and that will actually support conservation instead of paving over green space. Thank you for your time.
And the last resident, Mary Lee.
Good evening. I want to start with my sincere condolences for the loss of your friend and colleague, Ray. I read his obituary online, and man, he made an impact. And I can tell just from the end part that I heard of your speech, John, that he impacted all of you personally as well. So for your loss, I am sorry. My name is Mary Lee. I live at 1310 North Carlton Avenue. My husband Buddy and I have lived at this location for 16 years. Today I present for public record portion of this meeting my unwavering opposition to the master plan, which includes a proposed parking lot of 250 spaces to be built on the east side of Gary Avenue using land that is currently zoned solely for residential. While there are many reasons I oppose this project, my household's primary drive in opposition is the egregiousness of the size, scope, and lack of consideration of the residents who live in proximity to this lot. Per your map, my house, not our property, my house sits 20 feet from this lot. I suspect there has to be significant amount of cognitive dissonance in your position as local leaders and stewards of public funding and trust. Careers dedicated to the betterment of a community, to conservation, and to the well-being of the citizens of Wheaton could never hold comfortably the idea that this massive parking lot would be anything but positively received. I get that. But it isn't being positively received, and candidly, it never has been. Nowhere has there been a formal documented call to action from our community for this lot. In summary, I find it distasteful that we as a community will potentially have to litigate to protect our objective and established property value from an entity that essentially benefits from tax dollars generated by high property value. It's baffling. In closing, I want to read excerpts from the Daily Herald that confirms and frankly reinforces our earnest protest. This is from March of 2019. Glen Ellen neighbors have won a lawsuit against the village to block the construction of a gas station at Five Corners. In a 6-page ruling on Friday, DuPage County Judge Bonnie Wheaton handed a defeat to the village after a nearly 2-year legal battle, barring it from enforcing ordinances and authorized the redevelopment of the dormant site into True North Energy gas station and convenience store. Wheaton ruled that the approval of a special use permit and other ordinances for the project was arbitrary and capricious. Attorneys for the group of more than a dozen neighbors maintained the village issued the permit with complete disregard for its comprehensive plan and zoning code. This case called to question the decision-making and priorities of our elected leaders, a plaintiff said. We are thrilled with the outcome of the case and hope it reminds our village leaders and staff to abide by their own zoning law, make decisions based on facts, and listen to the residents they serve. Judge Wheaton rebuked the village for what she described as a lack of evidence about the effects of the gas station on nearby property value and the 600 students who attend the nearby Forest Glen. Thank you.
Thank you. What do you have? Non-resident, okay. All right, so now I'm going to move on to comments from non-residents. The first speaker, I put it under here. Oh, it's a resident? All right, I'll take that one first then. Oh, wait some. All right, Angie Anderson, are you a resident?
Yes, I am.
Yep, okay, then we'll take you next.
Good evening. My name is Angie Anderson. I do live in Wheaton on Dorchester Avenue. Have lived there for 20 years. Was in attendance at the meeting in June. I wanted to also extend my condolences to you over the loss of your co-worker, fellow board person in August. I was very sad to hear that. The meeting in June ended on a question mark. I clearly heard that only women are allowed in the women's locker room and that only men are allowed in the men's locker room. This seemed like a sufficient answer to me, except that it was still left open for interpretation. Do men and women need to be born as male, male and female? Do they just need to look like the gender that are entering the locker room? Or can they just decide what gender they feel like as they are approaching the facility? After listening and watching the July meeting, I understood even more how complicated this issue is becoming, not just here in this situation, but in our society. The young people who presented their views as transgender had a point. They do not feel comfortable going into locker rooms and bathrooms of their original gender, and I can understand why. Likewise, I do not feel comfortable sharing locker rooms and bathrooms with biological women who identify as men, and do not want my son in these facilities with men who look like women. Most importantly, however, I do not want the door open to allow perpetrators masquerading or declaring themselves as transgender to enter either locker room. So I'm asking you to do these things. Clarify your policy that men and women in the locker rooms need to be biologically men and women of that particular locker room. Close the door to perpetrators having a legal loophole for their abuse, whether physical in nature, voyeurism, or exhibitionary. For example, male perps shouldn't be allowed to say they are just changing in the women's locker room because they identify as a woman. And that, I'm not referring to trans people in that, I'm referring to perpetrators. Please educate your staff to say no to men and women entering the wrong locker room and empowering them to call for assistance as needed. This is complicated, especially for those who may want to use a different bathroom than their biological sex. Please make sure, I didn't realize, but it sounds like you guys are in the process of doing, please make sure that those who are transgender, asexual, sexually fluid, non-binary, etc., have a valid option. Rice Pool already has such an option, as the mother of the disabled young man pointed out in June. These are single-person bathrooms available to anyone needing accommodation. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I move to non-residents, and we have two speakers tonight. First is Claire Childs.
So much for letting me speak. I was born in Wheaton, and I live in Winfield now, and I bring my young children to Wheaton a lot. I just wanted to point out that I think everyone in this room is a decent person who wants what is good. We all want to respect people's privacy, we all want to respect people's choices, and we all want our public spaces to be safe for everyone. In the midst of conversations about affirming or rejecting, welcoming or othering, I want to get down to the very basics. Why has our society and every known human society separated the sexes when there's nudity or the potential of it? Basically, because females and children are vulnerable to the unwanted attentions or aggression of males. If this youth here feels unsafe in the men's bathroom, that's an acknowledgement that there are predatory men. And this youth deserves protection, and I think a single-use option is wonderful. Women and girls have the right to use changing rooms, locker rooms, and restrooms free of males and male genitalia. This is not a question of rejection. I married a man. I think he's fabulous. But it's not okay for him to use a women's restroom. Okay, now it comes down to biological males who identify as women and for whom using the men's facilities causes mental and emotional pain. They deserve respect as human beings and pity for their pain. These transgender people may be the last ones to assault or be voyeuristic towards women. The trouble is, allowing biological males into female spaces is opening them wide to predatory men. Previous speakers are right, sexual assault is rare. But wherever women's spaces have been open to males in America, there's been a steep rise in cases of voyeurism, where biological men are taking photos and videos of women and girls in changing rooms. Again, I'm not making accusations against genuine transgender people. The trouble is, it's impossible to tell whether a biological male entering a woman's space is there because of gender dysphoria or because he's being predatory. I recognize that using binary public facilities can be emotionally painful to trans and non-binary people. I'm sorry for their pain. I can only imagine the daily struggles they have. We have laws in place to protect citizens from voyeurism and assault. As a society, we consider the invasion of bodily privacy a serious crime, much more serious than feelings of awkwardness. We cannot, for the sake of saving a small minority of transgender people from the awkwardness of using their biologically correct facilities, open all women and girls to the dangers of predatory males. I trust that you, the board, will put safety first and not sacrifice the privacy of women and girls for the sake of gender ideology. I ask that you would please clarify that when there are biological males in female spaces, the police is called and that person is removed. Thank you.
Thank you. And last, we have Mary Shapley.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Mary Shapley. I live at 300 Duane Street in Glen Ellen, just over the border, I would like to add. I have, though, lived in Wheaton, as I think the previous speaker mentioned, for many years. Proud graduate of Wheaton Academy. And again, being a Glen Ellen resident, though, I still use Rice Pool, some of the other excellent, just really outstanding park district and other services that Wheaton offers. I will note that as a woman, I have personally never been harassed or felt unsafe in a women's bathroom or locker room, whether that be in Wheaton, in the Park District, or anywhere else for that matter. I have, however, been harassed and catcalled by men in a variety of other settings, including, I'm thinking of a time earlier this month when I was just out running on the Prairie Path. I also don't think there's much research or evidence people are lying about their gender identity just to sneak into a different locker room or bathroom. I personally have no interest in entering a men's locker room. I know my husband would never enter a women's bathroom or locker room, and I know that because he doesn't even wait for me directly outside the women's locker room because he doesn't want to make anyone feel uncomfortable. So all that is to say, I think a policy of allowing people to use restrooms and locker rooms corresponding to their gender identity is a very sensible one. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I'd like to thank everybody for doing their best to keep the comments within the time limit. And like I said, I wasn't going to cut anybody off. As for the parking lot comments, the board will review the concerns raised tonight, and we will be discussing the project in greater detail at the October board meeting. As for the comments on our locker room policy, the board has not taken any action to amend its current ordinance, which our lawyers have advised can coexist with the current law. Staff is working to address some of the concerns raised during earlier public comment regarding direct pool access, locker room privacy, and the availability of single-use bathrooms and changing rooms. Their recommendations will be presented to the board in an upcoming meeting, and I do not anticipate the board taking any action on just this subject until that has been completed. Our board meeting schedule is posted on the website, and the agenda for each is posted 48 hours in advance of the meeting. Lastly, I'd like to clarify how emails to the commissioner's inbox are handled. These emails go directly to the board president, who immediately sends them to staff for forwarding to the entire board. If the email reports a problem that can and should be corrected by staff, the president will ask the executive director to address the problem and report back to the board. On topics like the zoo parking lot, it would be inappropriate for individual board members to reply to these emails until there is public board discussion on the topic, as individual board members do not have the authority to speak for the board. Thank you. Now I'm going to move on to the business section of the meeting.
You're all welcome to stay. You don't have to leave.
Okay, that's minutes. Let me find my agenda with all the stuff I have here. Okay. This was July special. Okay, this tonight's. Yeah, is that it? Mine got mixed in. All right, so we've done community input, and now it's time to move on to the consent agenda. I need a motion.
I will do so, sir. Move to approve the consent agenda. Items A through G, starting with A, approval of the disbursements totaling $1,044,299.42 for the period beginning July 12, 2023 and ending September 12, 2023. B, approval of disbursements totaling $2,293,103.34 for the period beginning July 12, 2023 and ending September 12, 2023. C, approval of the subcommittee meeting minutes dated June 7, 2023. D, approval of the subcommittee meeting minutes dated July 5, 2023. E, approval of regular meeting minutes of July 19, 2023. F, approval of special meeting minutes of August 14, 2023. And finally, G, approval of the amended meeting schedules for the Wheaton Park District Board of Commissioners.
Second.
We have a motion by me and a second by Fry. Mike, can you take the roll, please?
Excuse me. Commissioner Vyers?
Yes.
Commissioner Pacharich?
Yes.
Commissioner Me?
Yes.
Commissioner Fry?
Yes.
Commissioner Barrett?
Yes.
President Kelly?
Yes. There is no unfinished business. We're going to move on to new business, and the first item is Resolution 2023-06.
I move to approve Resolution 2023-06, approving the filing for petition for annexation with the City of Wheaton for property located at 0 North 239 Gary Avenue in Wheaton.
Second.
Motion by Vyers, second by me. Any discussion, comments, or questions? Take the roll, please.
Commissioner Pacharich?
Yes.
Commissioner Me?
Yes.
Commissioner Fry?
Yes.
Commissioner Barrett?
Yes.
Commissioner Vyers?
Yes.
President Kelly?
Yes. New business item 2, the Briar Patch Improvement Project.
I move to reject the sole bid for the Briar Patch Park Improvement Project from Innovation Landscape.
Second.
We have a motion by Pacharich and a second by Fry.
Yeah.
Any questions or comments? The only comment I will make is that, this is an awful large contract to award on a single bid, and we will be coming back to you and putting this job out for rebid in a more favorable time. Mike, take the roll. We can do a voice vote on that.
All those
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Next item, the Community Center Parking Lot Repaving Project Change Order.
I'll make a motion to approve change order number 1 for the community center parking lot repaving project from Abbey Paving in the amount of $9,866.10.
Second.
Motion by Fry, second by me. Anybody have any questions or comments on it? Under 10,000, all in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Item number 4, our gasoline and diesel fuel supply purchases for 23-24.
Move to approve the bid for gasoline and diesel fuel supply and delivery from Feast Oil Company at a cost of the OPIS rate of plus 1.198 per gallon for a term beginning December 2023 and ending November 2026.
Second.
Motion by me, second by Pacharich. What's the value of that?
Over.
That's
I would take a vote.
So, anybody have any questions or comments?
Nope.
Mike, take the roll, please.
Commissioner Fry?
Yes.
Commissioner Barrett?
Yes.
Commissioner Vyers?
Yes.
Commissioner Pacharich?
Yes.
Commissioner Me?
Yes.
President Kelly?
Yes. New business item number 5, Graph Park Fence Replacement Project.
I'll make a motion to approve the bid for the Graff Park fence replacement project from Northern Illinois Fence, including base bid A and B and alternate number 1 at a cost of $41,013.07 plus a contingency of $4,101.
Second. Oop, go ahead, Bill.
Motion by Fry and a second by Barrett. Anybody have any questions or comments? Mike, take the roll, please.
Commissioner Barrett?
Yes.
Commissioner Vyers?
Yes.
Commissioner Pacharich?
Yes.
Commissioner Me?
Yes.
Commissioner Fry?
Yes.
President Kelly?
Yes. New business item 6, lift truck purchase.
I move to approve Resolution 2023-07, ratifying and approving the emergency expenditure of funds without competitive bidding for the purchase of certain vehicles at an amount not to exceed.
Oops. Oops. Hang on one second.
Fill in the blank.
$116,900.
$116,900.
Second.
Yeah, I must have taken a little nap when I was typing.
I think that's correct. Do we have a second?
Second.
Right here.
Oh, you got it ready. Terry's right up.
Me.
Anybody have any questions? Mike, take the roll, please.
Commissioner Vyers?
Yes.
Commissioner Pacharich?
Yes.
Commissioner Me?
Yes.
Commissioner Fry?
Yes.
Commissioner Barrett?
Yes.
President Kelly?
Yes. New business item 7, the Scottdale Park backstop replacement project.
I'll make a motion to approve the bid for the Scottdale Park Backstop Replacement Project from Northern Illinois Fence Project, including Field Number 9, Field 10, and T-Ball Field Number 2 in the amount of $165,363.23, plus a contingency of $16,536.
Second.
Motion by Fry, second by Vyers. Any comments or questions? Rob, this is work that's going to be completed this fall, correct?
Sure hope so.
And we're just waiting for fall baseball then before we can start, right?
Coordinate everything with athletics.
Right. Mike, take the roll, please.
Commissioner Pacharich?
Yes.
Commissioner Me?
Yes.
Commissioner Fry?
Yes.
Commissioner Barrett?
Yes.
Commissioner Vyers?
Yes.
President Kelly?
Yes. New business item 8, the Cosley Zoo Visitors Deck Replacement Project change order approval.
I move to approve change order number 1 for the Cosley Zoo Visitors Center Deck Replacement Project from Wallfill in the amount of $625.
Second.
Bill?
A motion by Pacharich, second by Barrett. Anybody have any questions? Voice vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. New business item 9, a mower purchase.
Move to approve the purchase of a Groundsmaster 4000-D mower from the Omnia Partners Cooperative Contract through Reindeers, Inc. at a cost of $89,240.70.
Second.
Motion by me, second by Fry. Anybody have any questions or comments? Mike, take the roll, please.
Commissioner Me?
Yep.
Commissioner Fry?
Yes.
Commissioner Barrett?
Yes.
Commissioner Vyers?
Yes.
Commissioner Pacharich?
Yes.
President Kelly?
Yes. And new business item number 10, the J. Allen Concert fundraiser.
I move to approve payment to the Alzheimer's Association in the amount of $30,250.71.
Second.
So a motion by Pacharich, second by Fry. Anybody have any questions or comments? Mike, can you just, for the people who are listening, do a little reiteration on that, our partnership on that project?
Sure.
That concert?
Late spring, we were approached by a local family, the Vovodas, who had, one of them had become friendly through some email correspondence with music artist Jay Allen, who had lost his mother to Alzheimer's. The Vovoda family also lost a loved one to that disease. And they struck up a relationship, as it were, and the Vovodas approached the Park District about a fundraising concert, and we came up with the idea through talking that we would fold a fundraising concert with Mr. Allen performing into our summer entertainment series, and we charged an upcharge on our standard ticket price, and facilitated several other avenues for additional donations to the Alzheimer's Association. Over 800 tickets were sold, and the amount of money that was generated that day in the park was $30,250. I'm also pleased to report that through those efforts and additional marketing of that opportunity, and it's on the order, and it's still growing, of another $20,000 has been raised as a result from the public awareness that was created through that concert program. So we're very grateful to the Vovoda family for bringing us that idea and bringing a the artist Jay Allen to town and working with us on making this happen, on raising some money on behalf of combating this terrible disease. So we're very pleased with the outcome, and we're very pleased to be partnering with them.
Thanks, Mike. Please take the roll.
Commissioner Vyers?
Yes.
Commissioner Pacharich?
Yes.
Commissioner Me?
Yes.
Commissioner Fry?
Yes.
Commissioner Barrett?
Yes.
President Kelly?
Yes. Next item is reports from staff. So why don't we just start down at one end and work our way down? So, John?
I just want to make a couple comments. One, I want to piggyback, John, on your comments about Ray. Well done. I mean, I thought they were spot on. He was a great guy to have around. He's really the sweetest guy. We vote together probably like 7-0 about 98.6% of the time, but every once in a while we'll come across an issue where there's a difference, and Ray would always go down the line ahead of time and be like, that's okay, it's all right, we can disagree, we could do it without being disagreeable. So I always keep that image of Ray in my head, you know, when we have disagreements. I'm not nearly as sweet as Ray was, so it'll be a little harder for me, but he would have wanted us to do that without being disagreeable. In honor of him, I almost brought 18 tabs on staff reports today, but I'm too lazy, so I did it. And then the last thing I want to make was a comment on the summer concert series. It was a terrific success this year, great acts. I was at a bunch of them, including the second to last one was at September 9th. I think it was a Friday afternoon, the Chicago Experience, and Billy Elton, and the park was full. How many people do we have there, Mike?
1,500.
1,500. So that concert series has been a huge hit at Memorial Park. I think we've been vindicated on our vision for what Memorial Park would be like, and we look forward to many years, many summers to come full of entertainment and good times. So thank you.
Thanks, John. Linda, do you have anything? Terry?
Well, I certainly do, sir. And I don't want to disappoint you.
It's got 14 tabs.
I do. As a matter of fact, I'm speaking for our buddy Ray, and you're right, we're going to miss him. And Mike, I want to commend you for having, you know, expertly eulogized Ray recently. That was phenomenal. And John, you took up the gauntlet, and you know, couldn't have said it better. So perfecto. So yep, we're gonna miss old Ray, but you know, he's here with us. In other regards, first and foremost, you know, Mike, I want to thank you and our staff, you know, for a full summer of very successful and well-attended special events, you know, from the Cream of Wheaton, you know, the summer concert series, our Brew Fest, you know, our Cosmic Classic golf outing, you know, various Arrowhead banquet and wedding events, July fireworks and parade, and all the various runs and smaller staff recognition and wellness functions that, you know, you took care of, you know, over the course of the summer. I know we still have some things to go, but it couldn't have been better. And I do want to mention, on a positive note, I know that there's been a lot of, you know, anxiousness pertaining to, you know, gender-related use of our locker rooms and so forth, especially as it relates to the pools. We had no drop-off, you know, in attendance numbers at our pools this summer. As much anxiousness as, you know, was expressed, you know, over the last several months, you know, our attendance numbers were still solid. Wanted to recognize, and I don't see Dan here, but I'm sure, Andy, you can pass it on, but, you know, our 2023 fall soccer registrations and fees, our Rams cheerleading, and our Rams tackle football programs, you know, were stronger in 2023 than, you know, in 2022. Adult pickleball numbers and camp sport numbers were also up. We must be doing a lot of stuff right. CAC usage hours were up. We had, well, I've already identified the pool attendance numbers, but our pool pass sales were up in 2023 over 2022. And I'm getting there, John. I had a question for Rob. Rob, there was some issue about, you know, pond maintenance was difficult because of the above-average rainfall. I thought we were really low in rainfall this summer.
Well, it's varied. I mean, we had, you know, a drought earlier this year. It's been raining quite a bit lately. So I don't propose to have an explanation, but what's been shared by our pond maintenance people is it has been a difficult year all around, not just specific to our ponds.
Well, maybe it was, you know, maybe it was the time. Maybe it,
remember there was an ebb and flow to it. I did want to, again, thank the Values Committee, for the all-staff picnic and the service awards. That was well attended. That was enjoyable for me, and as well as it was for everybody else. Who can answer the question about what's involved in the Lubco Center AARP driving program? Anybody? I know we got a Wheaton police officer that's taking care of that program for us. Anybody know?
I'm sorry, what was the question about which program, sir?
No, what is the AARP program at the Lubco Center that's being coordinated by one of our police officers?
You know, and I'm not
I'll
certain
ask.
here today, but why don't I follow up with you?
Yeah, sure. I'll take care of it. I thought somebody might know. Getting down to it, once again, Cowsley Zoo revenues, numbers are up. Thanks, Sue. We're cooking. I think it says a lot, and it certainly goes to the issue of, the need for additional parking. And Andy, you can pass along to our golf staff, our golf rounds are up close to 5,000 at this point in time over the 2022 round. So, I mean, that golf course is in fine shape, and, I think it's reflected in our numbers. I don't want to leave out the museum visitor numbers in 2023. It's up about 1,100, over the numbers for 2022. So, staff, you're doing a great job. Keep it up. Thanks.
Thanks, Terry. Bob?
Terry stole my thunder.
And Bill?
I just wanted to thank the president for the comments you made about Commissioner Orrell.
Thanks, Bill. And I've said enough tonight, so I'm not saying anything else.
Do we have a closed session?
Yes, we do. And we will probably not be coming back and taking any action, correct?
Correct.
Under what site?
We'll be in under
So we're going to need a motion under,
appointment, employment, pending probable or imminent litigation.
Oops.
5 ILCS 120/2C11.
Hang on. Lost my agenda.
Here you go, Terry.
Move to adjourn our regular session and move into closed session under which one, Mike?
Pending litigation.
pending, lit-
Under D, pending probable or imminent litigation under 5 ILCS 120/2C11.
Second.
so we had a motion by me and a second by Vyers. Mike, take the roll.
Commissioner Vyers?
Yes.
Commissioner Pacharich?
Yes.
Commissioner Meade?
Yes.
Commissioner Fry?
Yes.
Commissioner Barrett?
Yes.
President Kelly?
Yes.